At an undisclosed location in South Africa, the KF team have made their heartbreaking journey to rescue Baloo, an adult white rhino bull, which is the sole surviving rhino from a large game reserve. For years, the rhinos here were tracked and cruelly hunted down by poachers. The adult males, females, and even tiny calves were killed for their horns until eventually, the very last rhino remained. For hours, the reserve's anti-poaching unit and KF staff slowly tracked Baloo, who in absolute panic was running away from the rescue team in fear for his life, not understanding that they were in fact there to save him. When Baloo was finally found, he was safely sedated by veterinarian Dr. Albertus Kutsia, and his horn was trimmed again so as to remove as much of the threat to his life as possible. It was then up to the team to guide him into the awaiting transport crate for the journey ahead to his new home at the Care for Wild Rhino Sanctuary. This is witnessing extinction in action. What was once a Big 5 game reserve was now a Big 3, as the lion population had also fallen victim to the poachers' snares. However, the mission of Care for Wild is to not only reverse the loss of rhinos, but to become a safe haven for all the survivors. For the weeks leading up to the rescue of Baloo, it was all hands on deck at Care for Wild as the staff built him a boma, where he could adjust and acclimatize to his new surroundings. With the walls, roof, and fresh water connected to his enclosure, there was only one thing left to do, and that was to see if Baloo approves. Five months have now passed since Baloo arrived at Care for Wild, but Petra and her team have sure been incredibly busy as they finish preparing a large new camp for Baloo and some of the older rhino orphans to move into.
That's right, look at this, that's you. The purpose of cutting this grass in this particular camp is basically to make sure that the rhino bull can see. Remember, rhino bulls or rhinos can't see very well, so we need to make sure that he can see where he's going. So he might still be a little bit tranquilized. So at this stage, we're making sure that he doesn't drown in the river, that he can see where he's walking, that there's an area where he can drink water in. So it's very important to open the area so that they can see properly.
The day has finally come for some of the released rhinos to move into the new camp, with Baloo's arrival to follow shortly.
We're looking for a feeding spot that we can place this grass, but fairly close to the entrance to the new camp, so that we can start to bring the new group that's going to go into that new camp closer. This is actually an old feeding spot, so they're used to this area. It just hasn't been active for a while. So we're going to reactivate it now, and hopefully they'll come across. Half here and half over there. Okay.
These are the oldest orphan rhinos who have been released inside Care for Wild's intensive protection zone, and they have been chosen as the ones that will move into the new camp and be introduced to Baloo when he will join them in a few days' time.
Robin and Satara are still just hanging back in the tree line, but they're heading over here now. So what's nice is it's actually not their normal eating time. They tend to eat early morning or late afternoon, so they're not too bothered about this, but at least they know that the food is here. So there's actually no real reason now for them to leave the area. They may go and drink water, but they should come back and stay in this area, ready for moving them into that new camp.
As the Care for Wild staff make sure the rhinos are happily grazing on fresh piles of teff, they now have an interesting task of collecting as much rhino dung as possible.
Okay, so you can see this is actually a poop spot, a toilet spot. It's called a midden. So rhinos will defecate in the same places all the time. So we're loading some of this defecation now, and we're going to put it on the road leading towards the gate for the new camp.
To make sure the rhinos aren't stressed while being walked to the new camp, staff members place piles of dung along the pathway that will lead to the new camp. The smell of rhinos' own dung is used as a tool to calm them, as it makes them feel at home in an unfamiliar environment. Meanwhile, Mark gives a quick brief to the staff before walking the rhinos in.
Mel and Miss Rachel, what they want to do is they want to bring some of the rhinos in here into the new area. Are you with me? Get them used to the area, then we introduce that other one into here. Yeah? Okay.
After weeks of planning, Petronelle and her team are finally ready to lead the rhinos into their new camp. With a little bit of sweet talking and a handful of their favorite treat, lucerne, one by one, the released rhinos slowly follow Petronelle's voice through the African bush, stopping ever so briefly to sniff the poo along the way.
Come, Robin. Because if we go through, you must see where you can run to. Always go to that side. Tommy is now second. Can you see how interesting? Come, Robin.
As the oldest released rhinos of Care for Wild explore their new home, the team at the sanctuary are busy preparing for Baloo to leave his, marking a new chapter for the orphan rhinos, as they will soon come into contact with the first wild adult rhino since their mothers were poached over 5 years ago, and fulfilling the Care for Wild mission of saving not only orphan rhinos, but wild adult rhinos as well. Baloo will now have a family once again.